Hey guys, MC Stu here, and in this video I want to talk about my top 5 Lobi Store starships. I'll rate them in order from my favorite, or I guess favorite's a bad word for it, but basically in terms of usability, versatility, and starship trait, and we'll go through those one at a time. Before we jump in, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has subbed to me on the channel here and supported our content. It's grown way faster than I had expected. I had a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers in May of this year, 2021, and we're on our way to hitting 2,000. So I just want to say to everybody that I really appreciate the support and thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed yet and you find these videos helpful, I do encourage you to go ahead and hit that sub button and ring the bell. Give me a thumbs up. That helps me out quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at these ships, and we'll go over each one, their strengths, their starship traits, and any kind of drawbacks to them, so that if you're looking into purchasing a Lobi ship, you might have a little better understanding of maybe what to pick, at least based on the 5 that I like the most. So let's jump right in and take a look at these. Coming in at number 5, first on our list here is the Zendi-Primate Dreadnought Cruiser. This is probably the ugliest ship on the list, if not in the entire game. In my opinion, it looks funky. Maybe it could grow on me, but I doubt it. But the looks aren't everything when it comes to whether a ship is good or not. So let's go ahead and take a look at the layout here. All right, let's see here. So I have this set up as a beam build, beam overload. It's a pretty standard, Dreadnought cruiser, although it is a 4.4. Many of the Dreadnought cruisers these days are 5.3s. If it were a 5.3, I'd probably like it even more. But with that being said, it is still number 5 on the list out of all of the ships that are in the Lobi store. So the overall layout is pretty decent with an X upgrade. You could get 4 of the tactical consoles in here, which I think would serve it well. So the overall, layout, as you can see, it has 5 engineering slots, 3 science, and 3 tactical. So kind of a weirdish layout, I guess, for, what you would call a Dreadnought cruiser. But broadside beam boat, this ship can do pretty well at that. It's pretty standard layout, I really think, for a ship like this. The console that comes with it, don't laugh at me, but I'm pretty sure that I deleted it on accident. So what it comes with, I'll just read you off the specs on it, and I'll put a link down in the description for you guys if you're interested in taking a look at that. But it comes with a console that is called Subspace Chemocyte Deployment. And what it does is passively, it's going to give you plus 6.2 maximum shield capacity, reduces all enemy damage to shields by 2%, and the clicky, which is the Chemocyte Deployment Vortex, is going to, at a 180 degree targeting arc, it's going to create some level subspace vortex. I'm sorry, I'm reading from the wiki here because I don't have the console, so some of it's blanked out because it varies depending on the way your build is. But essentially, it's going to create a vortex at 2 kilometers from the foes. It's going to launch chemocyte projectiles, 1 every second for 10 seconds, dealing chemocyte projectile damage, whatever that means. Radiation damage is what that translates into. Okay. 2 foes within 1 kilometer of that vortex. Being that I deleted it, either on purpose or on accident, whatever it may be, it's not something that I would slot for any of my main builds. If I was doing some oddity build or just trying out stuff, universal consoles can always do really weird and cool things mixed with the right kinds of traits and builds. So if you pick this ship up, I would definitely not delete it. I'm assuming I didn't mean to. I don't normally do that, but in any case, I didn't see it in my reclaim either. So anyways, that's what the console does that comes with this ship. The ship also comes with a hangar, and the hangar pets are okay. I would probably swap these out if I was going to be, running this ship for any amount of time. You can see the specs there on the screen. Let's take a look at let's go with the bridge officer seating here. So pretty decent on the bridge officer seating. Our first one is going to be a lieutenant commander universal command seating. So you could do a torp build with mines maybe on something like this. Would be kind of cool. Have to give it a try. You can do concentrated firepower 3. You would not be able to get a high yield 3 on that, however, but you could still make that work. It has a lieutenant tactical station. We have a commander engineering station. We have a lieutenant engineering. And is that a Intel seating? And then we also have a lieutenant science station. So again, nothing super special here. It's partially the reason that this ship is number 5 on the list is that there's nothing really impressive about this ship overall. I think it's ugly as hell. There's nothing wrong with the bridge officer seating, but it's not anything awesome. The actual layout of the ship, I personally like to have a little more tactical because of the play style. This isn't a science ship, so a little underwhelming here. The reason it is on the list is for its trait. And its trait is super weapon ingenuity. And what this does, if you're going to do a beam overload build, this is a must-have trait. What this trait does is it extends beam overload for 5 seconds. Beam overload runs for 10 seconds stock. It has a 30-second cooldown stock. It's very easy to get that 30-second down to the hard cap of half, which is 15 seconds. And if you have this trait, being that it extends it out, you're going to get a total of 15 seconds on that firing mode, meaning your beam overload is going to operate and be up and running for you 100% of the time, which makes a massive, massive difference in your ship's performance. You guys have seen me using this trait in the last 2 advanced build videos that I did, which were beam overload. And this is, you can do a beam overload without it, but if you want to go next level and make it a legit beam overload build, you're going to want to be working towards getting this particular trait if beam overload is your firing mode of choice. So that's why this ship is number 5. That's why it's on the list, is mainly for this trait here. There's some things that, if you're building towards, unfortunately, sometimes you got to pick a ship that might not be, the greatest in order to get that trait. Some people disagree with that thought process. I struggle with it personally. I mean, I don't want to spend, a bunch of Lobi on a ship I'm not going to fly. You could make this flyable. You could make something work out of it that's good, no problem. It's just the whole thing is somewhat underwhelming for me personally. But again, the trait is a must-have if you're trying to build high-end beam overload. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Coming in at number 4 is the Huznak warship. This is an interesting looking ship. We saw it once on Star Trek The Next Generation, if I remember correctly. This was that made-up ship by the alien on the planet, where the whole planet had been destroyed except for that one little patch of grass on it. In any case, interesting looking ship's got a weird kind of thing sticking out the bottom. You can actually take that off in the tailor if you don't like that. This is another one of the pretty versatile ships that are in the game and in the Lobi Store. Let's take a look at the layout on it. So this is a 5-3 setup. Heavy on the tactical, which is nice. So we have 4 engineering slots, 2 science, and 5 tactical slots. No hangar bay on this one. It's not a Dreadnought or a flight deck or anything, so that wouldn't be expected. I currently have a torpedo build on this ship. You could easily do cannon scatter volley or beam overload, dual beam banks on it, and it would excel pretty damn good at especially that. Let's take a look at the seating. So this does have a commander tactical, which is very, very nice. We'll start at the beginning here. We have a lieutenant commander universal seating, which I have science slotted in it at the moment. Next, we have a temporal tactical commander seating. which again, anytime you can get that tactical seating, especially or tactical with commander seating on a 5-3, that really opens up what you can do on it. So really excel at a cannon scatter volley. Again, beam overload with the recursive shearing on it, very, very good. Or even torpedo build, being that it has the command seating. So let's keep going through the list here. So we have Lieutenant Commander Engineering, we have a Ensign Engineering, and we have a Lieutenant Science, again with command seating on it. So torp boat, check, you can do that. It's preferable to have concentrated firepower 3. Concentrated firepower does a pretty good amount of damage. When you mix it with some of the other best in slot torp traits, you can still get quite a bit of proccing from those traits. So overall, just an excellent layout. I probably should have made this lower down to, closer to number 1 on the list, because it is overall an excellent platform. The weapons layout, the console layout, and the seating, for a tactical heavy, DPS build is just perfect. Excellent ships, very nimble, flies very well, good rounded ship. The reason it's not lower down the list is the trait that comes on it is okay. If you're going to be building for beam overload, it's good, very good, mixed with some of the other best in slot overload traits. So what this is going to do is give you a damage buff to either rapid fire or beam overload from temporal ops, bridge officer abilities being activated, or any kind of directed energy modulation, which is an engineering bridge officer ability. So if you were going to do, say, beam overload with recursive shearing, I think that's really where this ship would shine, or a rapid fire cannon build with the recursive shearing. You could put something together really nice. The ship itself is built to do that, and the trait goes right with it. So while you can do torp builds, while you can do cannon scatter volley, which would both do very well, I think the cannon scatter volley would probably do as good as beam overload or rapid fire. Rapid fire and torp are probably lower on the list, but like I said, I have this built as a torp build, and it performs extremely well with this build, and this is probably 3rd tier in terms of what the ship would really excel at. So the ship's on the list because the ship itself is excellent. The overall layout is very, very good. Like I said, the trait is very specific, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is, it's not super, best in slot for what it's specific for. So the buff you get when you trigger one of those grants you a 25% bonus damage, which is very, very good for 15 seconds. So when that's proccing, that's definitely going to give you a big boost. And like I said, if you mix that with some of the other best in slot beam overload traits, this trait would shine there as well. But it's not just, like I said, that it's specific, but it's not top of the list specific. So there's other ships that are going to be in this list or are in this list, like the one we just discussed, where that beam overload trait is a must-have, right? It's super specific, but it's a must-have. This is super specific, but it's not a must-have. And that's why this ship is at number 4. The trait is good. The ship itself is amazing, though. Excellent, choice if somebody were to pick this. Versatile, like I said, you can do pretty much any kind of major tactical build on this and do very, very well with it. So that is number 4. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 3. Number 3, the Sona Intel Battle Cruiser. This Lobi ship, I think, is probably one of my favorite looking ships. That might be controversial, but I just really enjoy the way that this looks. I'm not super fond of boomerangs, so we'll skip that joke. But it just has a nice, sleek, kind of stealthy sport look to it, and I just really do enjoy that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the layout on this ship. So this ship is a 5-3. It has 4 engineering slots, 3 science and 4 tactical. I do not have the X upgrade on this. I currently have it set up with a cannon scatter volley build, although this ship can also double as a torpedo boat as well. Let's take a look at the console that comes on this ship. It is the Subspace Barrier Agitator, and what it does is passively it's going to give you +3 to maximum shield power, +20 to starship drain expertise, and +10 shield hardness. The clicky on it is going to create isolytic terrors that deal physical damage and drain in a 250-degree arc in front of the ship. It creates 5 of these tears that's going to affect foes within 3 kilometers of them, and it's going to deal on this particular build. I think these stats would be higher if you're building for kinetic, but it's going to do basically 2,300 physical damage and -5 current engine power. So I don't run the console. I had to look pretty hard to find it. It's lackluster. I mean, unless you're doing something specific that has to do with specifically, maybe drain and, physical damage, which a lot of torpedo builds are going to do. And when we look at the trait, I think that'll probably make a little more sense. But let's start with the stations. So this has a universal command station, lieutenant command station. So it's a lieutenant station that has command seating. I currently have tactical slotted in that. Next is going to be a lieutenant commander tactical station. And then we have an engineering intel commander station, lieutenant engineering, and lieutenant science. So, pretty decent layout with the cannon scatter volley 2. It still does pretty decent. That's what I put on the ship to unlock the trait. If I'm being honest, I really got the ship for the trait. I have this ship on 2 of my other characters, and I got it for the trait essentially, only because I have other ships that are similar and do some of these roles a little better. But I'm not saying that to knock the ship, because there's nothing bad about it. It is a solid, good, well-rounded ship that you could do a torpedo build, cannon scatter volley, or dual beam bank overload, or just a beam array overload build, and it would do very well at all of those. You could score very well in ISAs and ISEs with the right builds on them. So again, not knocking the ship. It's just I have other stuff that I, build to or build on, I think a little bit better for some of the things that I'm after. So let's take a look at that trait. So the trait that you unlock with this is subspatial warheads. And what this is going to do is anytime you launch a high yield or you do a transport warhead, it's going to create an anomaly at the target's location. It's an area of effect, so it's going to affect anything around that target within 1 kilometer, and it's going to deal a decent amount of damage, 2,304. And it's also going to give a -5 to the engine power. So very similar to what that clicky is on the console. And when you're running this with a torpedo build and you're running things like the temporal 2-piece space set, so like core and shield or whatever combination you have of that, it's going to buff this. You're going to find that on most of the torpedo builds, the high-end torpedo builds out there, this trait and the isolytic tears that you're getting from it are going to be on the top of the list for doing the most damage on those builds, believe it or not. Concentrated firepower, every time you use that, you get a free high yield, which is also going to create these tears and do quite a bit of damage. So this trait really adds up, and I'm telling you right now, anytime I run my torp builds, this ability is at the top of the list for damage. And so that's why this ship is in the number 3 slot. It's a good, well-rounded ship. You can use it in many different roles. But the trait is somewhat specific. You need to have torpedo high yields going off, and generally that's going to make the most sense on a torp build. Not that we don't use torpedoes on other kinds of builds, but generally for myself, I'm using spread and things like that when I'm mixing it in a cannon scatter volley build like you see here, or a beam overload build, or what have you. So kind of a specific trait, but good overall layout on the ship, well-rounded ship, good ship you could have a lot of fun with. But that trait, it's not just that it's specific, but it's also OP for what it's specific for, and that is why it is on this list here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. And number 2, the Tholian Itacomi science vessel. Again, an excellent looking ship, very unique in design. I have the breast cancer awareness shield on it currently, which I really like the outline look that gives. It's very sleek, looks like some kind of alien space future fork, I guess you could say. But very nice, unique looking ship. I enjoy it quite a bit, the overall design here. Let's take a look at the layout that we have on this ship. It is a standard 3-3 science vessel with 3 engineering slots, 5 science slots, and 3 tactical. And obviously secondary deflector. There's no hangar bay on this. So pretty standard science ship. Many will argue there's much better ships, and I don't know that I would argue with that. Although I find that I'm able to perform pretty darn good in this ship, and I really enjoy flying it. It's nice and nimble, fast, and I do well. So like I said, there are probably better science ships you could use for your quote-unquote meta, best in slot ships, but this is up there with it, and you can have a lot of fun doing the space magic with this ship. Let's take a look at the stations. So we have a Lieutenant Commander Universal, we have an Ensign Tactical, we have a Lieutenant Commander Engineering Miracle Worker, and then next we have the Commander Science, which is pretty standard for your science ships, and then we have a Lieutenant Science Command Station. So pretty decent layout. You can see obviously I have it science heavy across it since that is what it does, but the overall layout is pretty darn good. I most likely will pick up another Sona Intel battle cruiser at some point for this character because of the command seating, and be able to put concentrated firepower too, so that we can get those isolytic tears on this ship. I think it's going to do really well with that combination. In any case, I digress. Let's take a look at the trait that comes with this ship. This trait is one of the best in-slot traits for science, and if you're doing some maybe slightly off-meta tanking, or if you're essentially not wanting to use Aux to bat, let's put it that way. So that can apply to a whole bunch of different scenarios that I don't want to try and think of at the moment. But essentially what this trait does, Improve Photonic Officer, is it extends the duration of Photonic Officer for 10 seconds. So basically it puts Photonic Officer in a position where you have almost, or you do have 100% uptime, because Photonic Officer normally goes for 20 seconds. With this trait, it's going to go 100% of the time. So Photonic Officer is going to be, at least the one that I have, which is the number 2. It's giving you 3% off of your cooldowns for your bridge officer abilities every single second. And this trait allows that to run the duration of the cooldown of this ability, which basically means all of your bridge officer abilities are going to stay up pretty much 100% of the time, unless they're hitting that 50% cap. This also will provide a bonus 25% bonus shield healing, 25% bonus exotic damage, which is a huge boost for science build, and that duration is 30 seconds. So essentially, if you're running Photonic Officer and you're clicking that, as soon as it comes off its 30-second cooldown, you're running this 25% bonus Cat 2 exotic damage boost for the duration of whatever it is you're doing. And then it also gives 25% bonus hull healing. So again, on a tank that's not using, say, Aux to bat, and you're using Photonic Officer as the cooldown, this is very good for that as well. You may not benefit as much from the boost that you get to the exotic damage, but you are from the rest of the healing, and you're going to benefit greatly for the boost that it's giving to Photonic Officer and its ability to cool you down. So that is the Tholian ship, and again, excellent ship. This is number 2 on the list. Again, I would put this in more of a, obviously a specific science build setup scenario, but the trait is very versatile as well. So ship not so much, but the trait is, and that's why it is in slot number 2. All right, let's take a look at the number 1 pick. And for number 1, we have the Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser. This thing is gorgeous. This was my first quote-unquote premium ship ever. I had won it from Qstream on the Kyuu Continuum, and I still love this ship to this day. This ship is extremely versatile. It is extremely tanky, and it just looks amazing. Let's take a look at the layout on this ship here. So we have a 5.3, pretty standard for Dreadnought here. It does have the X upgrade, so we have the extra console slot as well as an extra device slot. It has 5 engineering slots, 2 science, and 4 tactical. It also has a hangar bay and unlocks the Elite Kelvin Timeline assault drones. These things are really cool. They just spray out torpedoes like crazy. They're equipped with the Kelvin Timeline torpedoes, which have an extremely low recharge, and these also have torpedo spread. So when you have the whole hangar out, they're just spraying torpedoes all over the map. Extremely cool. I like it a lot. Augmented Dictator hates it because they spray so many torpedoes, they're always stealing his concentrated firepower, which I understand. But nevertheless, they are very good pets. With that aside, the ship comes with this console, which is a universal console. It is the broadside emitter array, and it gives you a passive +3 current and maximum weapon system power, as well as plus 19% power recharge speed to captain's abilities, which is a nice little boost that gives. If you click on this in combat, the clicky, what it's going to do is fire 10 times per second at random foes in the left and the right 90-degree arcs. Per shot, it's going to give 1,191.9 phaser damage, at least on this particular build, times 60 is what it says. So essentially, when you click this, it sprays phaser damage out either side of your ship. It is a part of a set that you can pick up other pieces to and get bonuses as well. The console's cool. It's nice for that captain ability cooldown. I don't normally slot it on the ship or really any others, but I threw it on for the video here so we could demonstrate that. I currently have this ship set up as a cannon scatter volley build. This ship would also perform very well as a dual beam bank overload build, being that it's really apt for forward-facing builds. This ship could also be set up, obviously, for cannon rapid fire as well as tanking. So it has attract fire on it, and I have done and tested a tanking build on this, and it performs very well. Let's take a look at the bridge officer seating. So first up is a universal lieutenant commander seating here. I have set for tactical. Next is going to be a lieutenant universal temporal operative station. Next we have the lieutenant commander tactical, and then we have a commander intel engineering station, and 1 science with an ensign slot in it. So obviously pretty light on the science, but that's to be expected in a Dreadnought here. That's more of a DPS ship. You're not really going to do a science build on this, although you could seat another science officer here in the universal slot. So you can see the setup that I have for this cannon scatter volley build. And it performs extremely well, even for only having cannon scatter volley 2. This ship flies great. It does slide a little bit. If you check out my movement video in the beginner's guide series, you can see and learn how to do little workarounds around that to where that is not going to be an issue for you. Let's take a look at the trait that it comes with. The trait is called Target Rich Environment, and what it does is anytime you're using Fire at Will or Cannon Scatter Volley, it's going to give you plus 1% directed energy weapon damage per target while those abilities are active. It can stack up to 30 times, and it can generate up to 4 stacks per second. So with Cannon Scatter Volley going, or Fire at Will, say in a tank build, that's going to rack up real quick. So, you know, to be 100% honest, the trait is okay. It's not bad. It's not the best either. If I didn't have much else, I would definitely slot it. It is a nice damage boost there. But this ship is number one because of the overall ship itself. It just performs excellent. Having that 5.3, the hangar bay, the overall layout, the bridge officer seating, you can just do so much with it. It is an extremely versatile ship, and it is one of the most beautiful ships in the game, in my opinion. Especially with the Section 31 shield on it, which I really, really like. So that is our number one pick. I hope that this information was useful to you. Again, as always, these are just my opinions when it comes to these ships. I'm always interested to know what your guys' favorites are and your opinions on any of these subjects. So I do encourage you, comment down below. Let me know what's your favorite ship, either on my list or in the Lobi store in general. And again, if you haven't subscribed already, I urge you to click that sub button, ring the bell, and give me a thumbs up. That helps me out quite a bit. And again, I just want to say thank you to the community for the support you guys have been giving me. It's just amazing. And I just want to say that I really do appreciate that. Well, I think that wraps it up, guys. Again, I hope this was helpful. And until next time, stay safe, and thank you very much for watching.